What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Trick 10s. This is part 3 of this Frankenstein jet boat build. Now, this thing is going to be so sick when it's done, and I'm going to pick up right where we left off. In the last episode, I had just finished up all this framing and this cage for the back of the swim platform. Now, I need to figure out this hatch in here. So there's a couple things that I need to address before I start fabricating this hatch. And one of those things is this Kindorf material in here. That's what I call it. It's like a track section that he's got this set up for his motor mounts. Now, it's like a U-shaped piece, and he's got bolts and washers and stuff in here holding it all together, but he wants to come back and weld that. So I'm gonna clean up some of these edges and stuff around here. I'm gonna weld this whole thing together solid as I can get it. That way it doesn't move, because he's worried that it's gonna shift a little bit because it's just bolted down. And this thing is gonna be vibrating a lot when this motor is running. So I'm going to weld all those pieces solid everywhere I can get to. That's all stainless steel. So I'm going to get in there. I'm going to TIG weld all of that. Then on the other side, I've got a big electrical panel here. I mean, this has all of the electrical stuff in here. Basically, it came right out of the jet ski. Everything is plug and play. It's ready to go. It bolted into the side of the jet ski. It's got 4 holes, 2 here and 2 on that side. We're going to mount this thing something like that. It's going to sit right up here next to the motor. We give it a little bit of space in here. I'm going to weld some type of plate right here. That way that thing can bolt in. Once I finish that, then I'm going to start figuring out how I'm going to build this hatch. Now, I've been brainstorming on it. I was thinking a lot over the Christmas break, and I'm trying to figure out how to do this thing because this stupid exhaust right here is killing me. Now, I did build this exhaust. This is the way he wanted to do it. A lot of the ones that I've been looking up, they just kind of hook out U-shaped and go through the bottom of the hull. Well, he didn't want to run that one through the bottom of the hull, so what we did was we ran it through the back of the transom down here. That's fine, but it's so far over here, and it has to be above the water line, so this thing is sitting up about 1.5 inches right here. Now, I could build the whole hatch to taper up, or I can just do a small area right here that's a little bit taller. It's like a hatch section, and then I can have this whole thing be flat around here. I'm kind of leaning more towards that, because if I start tapering it up here, I like to keep everything symmetrical. And if I do that on the other side, it's just kind of a waste of space, and it's going to lose its floor space, because right now there's a big area here that can be flat and on these sides. And really we only have to taper this hatch up in the center where the motor's at. So instead of having, a sloped area to walk on this back deck, kind of leaning towards just making it to where it's just one hatch in the center that is big enough to remove the motor if it needs to be, and then having more deck space around here for him. I just think it will be better for him when he's actually out in the water and someone's on this back deck. They'll have more room to walk around. So I'm still going to play around with that and figure that out, but I'm going to put you guys back on the time lapse. I'm going to go ahead and weld this motor mounts in here solid. I'm going to build the piece for this electrical panel. Let's get back to work. So this piece here for all those electronics in here, it has a short slack in here. I can't really move this thing too far away. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach it to this stainless steel strut that's in here that is holding the motor mounts in. And I've cut a couple of strips here. This is 2.5 by 9 inch long, 0.125, 304 stainless steel. I just sheared these. I'm actually going to bend this like a channel to give it some strength. And I'm going to get this thing staged up here. I'm going to weld this straight up off of there and put the 2 holes in there. That way I can bolt it in. I cut 2 more pieces that are 6 inches long. I'm basically just going to bring those back like a kickstand, something like that, and weld it to the back of this piece that I'm installing, and then weld it to this existing strut behind that. I should make this thing strong, and it's going to put it in the perfect location. I would much rather use the stainless steel for this because it's going to be easier to weld right to the frame. Now, I would normally make all this stuff out of aluminum because it's easier to work with, but it's going to be hard to get in there and put anything aluminum in there. So let's get these pieces bent up and get this thing installed. Let's get back to work. So we got our brackets welded in here. This thing is super custom. This one, a little unorthodox. Brought that gusset back and around the back side of it, but it's not hot anymore. It's super strong though. This one's set right up on the side. So I had a good triangle gusset in there. The thing is very strong. And I got all my blocks welded and everything I could weld. So it's pretty sweet. Now I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this piece up here. And then I'm gonna go on to trying to figure out the framing for this big back deck hatch. Let's get back to work. All right, so now I'm gonna put this piece in here permanently. I staged it up with some zinc bolts, but I ran across the street and I got some stainless steel bolts, nuts, and washers and lock washers, because I don't want this thing to rattle or come loose on them or anything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this up and get this thing where it needs to be, try to get some of these wires moved around, figure out exactly where all of them are going to sit. Then I'm gonna start figuring out all this framing, get this back deck hatch figured out. Let's get back to work. All right, so I'm gonna change the design up a little bit. As you can see, I got this piece of 1x3 sitting up here, this piece of angle. That's also gonna be 1x3, and there's another 1x3 going across here. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to run a piece of this 1x3 right up here and on this side where this angle's at. What that's gonna do is bring these sides in closer, and it's gonna give him some deck space, because if I built it the way I was originally gonna do it, I mean, this is all the deck space he's gonna have is right here. And this is only like 11 inches. That's not very much deck space to walk around the outside of this boat. So now with this is gonna give him like 23 inches of flat deck space that's gonna run all the way down this side and all the way across this back and out onto the swim platform too. So this is actually gonna be Now this is almost 25 inches here, plus you got another 19 inches hanging off the back of that. Now on this side, it's gonna be a little different because this piece right here sticks up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna bend a small section, maybe from here to here. I'm just gonna have it kick up at a 45 flat and kick back down. There's gonna be a little hump back here in this area, and it is what it is. I mean, I don't really wanna do that, but I don't think it'll be that ugly, and obviously it serves a purpose, so we're gonna make that work. Then I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to install a hatch. I'm gonna put a hatch that's basically gonna run from up here, back to here, and I'll bring it all the way over. So it'll be one big hatch here, and it's gonna stop right here. I'm going to put one on the other side too. Now what that's going to do is allow him more access and room to get up in here. I'm going to bring this hatch from here over, and I'm probably going to bring this one from here all the way back to here. I'll cut this out, and I'll cut this out once I get this other part framed in. And I think it'll be good because it'll give him more storage room in here, because there's really nothing else in here except for these wires and stuff. And I'll probably put a pan inside of this box right here for the hatch. It's going to be maybe 6 inches deep. It'll be good for storage, but that pan will also be removable. So when he opens this hatch up, he'll be able to get up inside of here, and he can reach all this electrical stuff in here if he needs to work on it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 pieces of this 1x3 to fit in the space right here. I'm going to get both of those tacked in, and then try to get the rest of this framed out. Let's get back to work. All right, so I pretty much redesigned the entire back deck, and this is going to make my life a whole lot easier. It's a little bit more work, but the way that I'm going to do it is very simple. On this side over here, you can see I brought this piece in here. It's a lot closer to the engine than this, but this gives him a good 22-inch walk space around here. This was only like 11 inches, and that was not enough room. I mean, my foot can't even fit up there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically extend this piece and this piece all the way over on either side. Then I'm going to cut this piece out right here, and I'm going to remove this piece. I'm going to take this piece that I'm cutting out, I'm going to shorten it and basically bring it back from here to come back over here. That way I can have a square corner here, and this whole area right here will be a big drop-in hatch. The way he can get in here and access all this, or get to any of these bolts or anything he may need to get to if for some reason he has to pull this engine out. Now this whole hatch inside of here is a lot smaller. Obviously it's going to taper up. That is going to be big enough that he can pull that motor if he ever has to pull it out of there. And I'm going to do something similar on the other side, but I also brought this back deck area from the transom up. I brought this all the way up here. Still leaves him enough room to pull that motor out of there. And what I'm going to do is just drop a hatch in here. That'll work out perfectly, because then he'll be able to get in here. This is basically just going to be for access. If he needs to take any of these bolts out or replace any of this stuff, he'll be able to get in here. He'll have a big access hatch right here. On this side, it's going to be a smaller hatch. I am going to drop a hatch in here. I'll probably put some type of floor or pan inside of these that's removable, so he has storage, and he can also use it for access. But I'm going to do basically the same thing I did on the other side. I'm going to continue this on up to here, and then I'm going to put another one closer here. I'm going to get rid of this one and get rid of this tube up to this point right here. That way he'll have one big storage hatch on this side, and it also will be a big access panel to get up inside of here. Now this is the only thing I'm not completely sold on, but I don't know of a better solution, and I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I'm just going to have a little piece that comes up and over here. We'll try to slope it all 4 directions, so it's, you know, kind of like a pyramid type deal with a flat top on it right here. I got to figure that out. We'll see how that works, but I don't think it's gonna be too big of a deal, especially having the hatch right here. If you need to get in here, you'll have access from inside the big hatch, and you'll still have access from inside of here if you need to get up inside of here and remove these pipes or whatever you might need to do. And another thing this does for me is, if you look at this, from this top piece down, I should have brought this over to here anyways, because I want to bring a vertical from here up. Now, when I take this piece and extend it all the way across, that will allow me to put my vertical right down onto that floor rib right there, and it will support this deck and make it really strong. I'm gonna put one here and one there and two on the other side over there also. We'll go ahead and get these cut out and framed out. Let's get back to work. All right, so the back deck framing is completed. Looks really good. It really wasn't that big of a deal. You can see now what I did. This piece here was here and continued on here. So really I only had to add this piece and that piece, and then I just moved this one back. And that gives him a big rectangular square corner drop-in area here. It's gonna have a hatch, access to all this stuff on the side of the motor, plus a decent amount of storage. Same thing in the back. We added this one in here, and then we've got another one over here. I did the same thing with this piece running up this side. It's over here now. We just cut it out of here, moved it back. We added this piece and added that piece. Pretty simple fix. It's a whole lot better. It's a whole lot stronger. Now what I can do, I can come back on this floor rib right here, straight up to the bottom of this piece of tubing right here. Same thing over here. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, on either side of those hatches over there. Probably gonna come back here too, run one up here, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to put one over there, but this should be plenty strong because this is gonna be tied into the transom here too. Now I've gotta build hatches for here, here, and here, and then I gotta build this big hatch here. I really want this thing to look sick, so I'm gonna have to do some figuring on that. I kinda want it to look like a pyramid, but I don't want the top to be pointy, so I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do that. I'd like to taper it in from all four sides. This thing will look a whole lot better. Still got some engineering to do to figure that out. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this whole deck welded. You can see it's just tacked up. You know, I got a couple welds here and there. So I gotta come back and weld this thing solid. I'm gonna weld it all the way across the top. I'm gonna weld it on these vertical ups. And I'm gonna try to lay down up underneath of it and weld everything I can weld from underneath of this too, to make sure this thing is really strong and permanent. And I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna weld all my seams back here on the swim platform. Looking sick though. Let's get back to work. All right, so I got all this stuff welded up. Turned out pretty good. Put some good weld beads on these. So this thing is strong as crap, man. It is super strong. Now I got to build a frame for these hatches, get those in there, and do this big one. But a lot of welding, a whole lot of welding. The fit up on these turned out really cool though. It made it easy to weld. They look really good. I was pretty stoked about that. That pipe coper is awesome, man. That thing just makes life so much easier. When you have a nice fit like that, it's so much easier to put a clean, pretty looking weld bead on it. But I'm showing you as much of these welds as I possibly can so you can see all of them. I'm not just showing you the good ones. They're all good. Super stoked. So I went ahead and I installed these hose clamps onto this piping right here. It's going to be for the exhaust piping. I want to go ahead and finish up as much stuff inside of this deck because I want to start closing this thing up. Obviously, it sits up at 1.5 inches. So I'm going to have to make something for that. I'm going to have a basically a piece that comes up and over. I'll make a little template for that. I'm going to cut out a piece, try to get that made. And I'm going to weld this in here. This is basically a drain plug pipe. This is going right in the back of the boat. Now, he did put a hole in here because he had to drain the water out of it. It filled up with rainwater, and this fits perfectly in here. I'm going to cut this off a little bit. It's a little bit too long. I'm going to cut about 1 inch off of it, but it fits right up in there perfectly. Put it just like that. Put a good weld around it. That'd be perfect. That way you can put a plug in the back and he can drain it if he needs to. Get both of those things done. Let's get back to work. All right, so I got the drain tube welded in. I think turned out good. Now I'm trying to figure this thing out. I really hate doing it like this, but I don't really have a choice. I built this little template. I just cut this out, and this is basically gonna be the profile of this piece that I'm gonna bend up here. Now, when I get back here and here, I'm gonna cut this piece, and I'm gonna try to figure out a way to taper this whole thing down on both sides, because I don't really wanna run this whole piece. It's just going to be stupid. So I'm going to make it as one piece, the full length of it. And I'm going to try to cut out the center so I could slope it down on either side. And that way it'll just be like a little mountain right in the center. Let's go find some aluminum, cut a piece for this, and bend it up to this profile. And we'll test fit it and see what it looks like. Let's get back to work. All right, so you see what we got. Basically like a hatch section. It fits on here very well. When it's all installed like that, it gives them about 3/8, almost a 1/2 inch of clearance around all three sides of the exhaust pipe. And I want to leave a decent amount of clearance because I don't know if this thing's gonna get hit or moved around. It's only being held on by like this rubber bushing here and the rubber bushings there. And if that thing starts vibrating, I don't want it to be banging or clanking up against the inside of this. We can't have that. So I left at least about a 1/2 inch of clearance all the way around. But now I'm trying to figure out how I want to finish this off, because I gotta, it's tapered up the sides. And I hate that that's in there, but I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. It's only this small section. But now I gotta figure out how I'm gonna cut these down, because I'd like to have it like a gradual slope, but I don't know, it might look better if it's the same degree angle on a 45 like I did with these bins right here. So I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna put this in the chop saw, and I'm gonna cut this on a miter. Then I'm gonna build some caps and cut those out for the ends and get this thing welded up and ready to install into the boat. Let's get back to work. All right, so this backside, it cut pretty good at a 45. Obviously the saw wasn't big enough blade to go all the way through it, so I had to cut the rest of it with a cutting wheel. But instead of cutting that same steep of an angle here, I'm gonna have it taper more on this front. I just think it would look cooler the way it's just gonna have a slight taper in the front and more dramatic in the back. So I cannot cut this in the saw, because the saw only goes to a 45. That's what this is. I'm gonna cut this out with the cutting wheel, and then I'm gonna go program these pieces into the burn table and try to burn 2 end caps on here so I can get them welded in. Let's get back to work. That's sick. That looks cool. I like that a lot better. Let me show you guys this. That angle on the front, I think it's way cooler. Having a lot less of a slope to it, and I would not be so steep on the front edge. I just think it looks more aggressive. It looks a whole lot more aggressive. The back can be, 45, which is cool. I think that thing is sick though. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna draw up a piece for this side and for the back side. And basically these pieces are gonna finish this thing from here. I'm gonna bend them back, so they're gonna come back and meet in the center of this one, just like these meet in the center of these 1x3s. That will finish this whole piece off. That will just be a piece that gets riveted in and turfed over. We'll get them going. Let's get back to work. All right, so I hate to do it, but I don't have to call this one here. The video is getting kind of long. We made a lot of progress in this video though. I mean, that super custom electrical panel over there that holds all of the fuses and solenoids and everything else for this engine. There's a ton of stuff on there. Thing is sick. Turned out perfect on all the deck frame. Everything's welded in solid. Got the drain in there. This piece right here, I'm pretty hyped about. It's gonna look cool when it's all said and done, especially with that angle, that taper on there. I'm starting to like it a little bit better, starting to grow on me. But I'm excited about this build. I still got a lot to do. I'm gonna go ahead and cut these caps for this, finish that piece up. Then I'm gonna cut all of the hatch track frames. I'm gonna cut them and get them welded together. That way those are ready to put in here. And all I gotta do is burn out the lids for those, start sheeting out this deck. You're gonna see all that in episode 4. I appreciate you guys watching. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. I'll see you guys next time. I gotta get back to work.